It's time for a 2026 rookie mock when we return. If I can find the intro. Still can't find the intro.
Hey guys.
Welcome to the Devy Devotional Podcast, a show devoted to college prospect evaluation with a fantasy football focus. With your hosts, John Arrington, Aaron Wilcox, and Andy Starr. This podcast brings you actionable strategies and player-driven analysis for your Devy, C2C, and Dynasty leagues. Let's dive in.
Let's dive into a rookie mock. Welcome into the Devy Devotional, where we stay devoted to Devy. I'm your host, John Arrington, joined as always by Andy Starr and Aaron Wilcox. And we got both of them tonight, so we're sitting pretty. And it's that time of year. It is time to have some fun with the rookies. It's time to start mock drafting. I think we did one in maybe like October or something around there. Just like a really way too early 2026 rookie mock. And obviously, so much has changed since then. We had a lot of players stay in college that we were not expecting or hoping to stay, and we had players come out that we probably don't care about as much. So it's maybe not as good of a class as we thought, but there's still some diamonds in the rough. There's still some gems that we are going to find, and it is our job to do that tonight. But we didn't want to just say, hey, we're just going to draft these guys willy-nilly. We wanted to base it on a NFL mock draft. I tried to find like a Daniel Jeremiah or someone who is like a trusted source. Unfortunately, a lot of like the biggest names have only done 1 round, 2 rounds, things like that so far, and we wanted to at least get a 3 round mock. So our good friends at A to Z Sports, Travis May being one of our good friends who was there for us for the 100th episode, he and his crew put together a 3 round NFL draft mock, and so that's what we are going to use tonight to cover and figure out where these players went and then how we want to draft them. And obviously Andy, Aaron, and myself will be competing against each other in this rookie mock, and then we'll post it for you guys to let everyone know that I won the mock when it's all said and done. But first we got to check in with the boys. Aaron, did you freeze? It was like negative 51 degrees today or something like that, right?
No, I stayed warm enough. The truck started each time. Did have plumbing issues, but they were actually unrelated to the cold, so that's just luck for you. But at the end of the day, here, staying warm enough. We'll say that.
Andy, you're not too much warmer. You might even be colder. I don't even know. I don't understand that part of the country. So how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I doubt we're colder than Minnesota, but we're in the thick of it as well. We had a couple cold days last week where it did drop below zero. I think it's going to drop below zero again this weekend. So that's why I'm wearing I got my hat on because I'm in the basement. It's cold down here. But it's Michigan. We're used to it up here, so it's not a big deal. I'm originally from the UP, so this is actually kind of nothing for us. This is like the middle of any normal winter for them up there.
Well, it was 82 degrees where I live yesterday, and today it did drop substantially. So today we were in the like mid 40s like most of the day. I think it got up into like right around 50. Tomorrow's supposed to be about the same, and then I think it's going to warm right back up, and we're going to be back in like the 70s or 80s in a couple of days. So enough about the weather, but yeah, every once in a while I got to flex on you Northerners when when you guys are talking about your negative 50 degrees and stuff, and I'm like, dude, I'm going to the beach. But yeah, actually, so like I said, we're gonna have some fun today. We're gonna be doing this rookie mock, but it is Aaron's turn to question Andy Starr for Guess the Guy. Let's guess the guy. That's right. It's the off season. That means we're playing games, we're having some fun, and we are back. Andy got the first and only ever uh, first round guess the guy answer. Although I gave him a very easy guess to get that guy. So maybe that one's on me, but we gotta hopefully take him down this time, take him down a notch. Hopefully he won't have the same amount of luck. But Aaron, why don't you take it away?
Sounds good. Yes, he's coming in hot. So let's go right away. Andy, guess
All right.
without any clues?
And you guys are so much better at like knowing market shares and stuff off the top of your head than me. So it was a good for me to knock out one with the first guess. Hoping to do it again right now. I thought about it all day actually. I've been thinking about it. I went through a few answers, but I ended on Decorian Moore from Oregon. Figured it had to be him.
Nice guess. It is not, though. But you got the right position. It is a wide receiver.
It's always guess the wide
I was
receiver
gonna say
here.
we got to switch this up at some point. We're gonna run out of players.
Well, I was looking. We were just talking about Antonio Williams, who's not going to be my guess, but I'll guess his teammate Bryant Wesco.
Ooh, that's fun. And I hope we can see a healthy season out of Bryant Wesco at Clemson next year. But no, it is not him. This player was able to, in 2025, secure a 25% yards market share.
All right, 25% market share. And we're including people that are in the draft this year too. Like that's how this is working this year, at least for the first part of the offseason, or no?
I don't think so. Anybody
Okay,
who's clearly declared already,
Okay,
I
that's
was
good.
not
I like that
considering.
better. So Devy only, college only, 25%. I'm gonna say we'll do KJ Duff. I think he's a little higher than 25%.
Yeah, no, I like the guess. We just talked about KJ Duff. I can't remember if it was last week, the week before. Yeah, maybe a few weeks ago, but no, it was not him. But this guy is going into his third season in college
Third
football.
season. Can't be Ian Strong because I already got him. And he's going into his fourth season now. 25%. Oh, that's got to be Mario Craver.
Oh, love the guess, but it's not. He's a SEC receiver though, so similar to Mario Cooper.
Oh, SEC. 25%. I think Coleman was higher than 25%, even though he barely had any yards. So let's see. Alabama, no. Tennessee, possibly. Maybe Mike Matthews or my guy whose name I'm forgetting right now. I'll just say Mike Matthews.
You're probably thinking of Staley there, but
Yeah, oh, yeah, Braylon Staley.
it's
Yeah,
his not. This
it's not
player
either of the Tennessee guys.
this player will play in 2026 for Texas, the University
Oh
of
no,
Texas.
is it Wingo? Ryan
It is
Wingo?
it is Ryan Wingo.
Okay.
Nice.
Ooh.
All right.
It could have been Cam Coleman, could have been Emmett Mosley, but you got
I
it. You
I
got
figure I think
Wingo.
Cam Coleman was a little bit higher than 25% because I remember being shocked by it
Yeah, I
when
remember it was like I think it was 31% or
Yeah.
something around. Yeah, 31%, I believe.
So all right, that's good.
Okay,
All right.
nice. You
I
got
was
2
worried it might
points.
be a transfer, and I knew Mosley he couldn't have been at 25% last year.
Yeah.
No.
No,
There's no
he
way.
was injured so much of the year. I suppose if you take out the games, that he wasn't playing, whatever. I mean, he'd be closer, but no, he didn't hit that. Talking about Ryan Wingo, he is actually being taken in startup drafts and mock drafts within the first 3 or so rounds of startups, which I think is kind of crazy, knowing that Coleman's coming in there, likely to be the alpha. I do think it offers some easier looks and some breakaway opportunities for Wingo, who's just awesome with the ball in his hands. But, I mean, he's got drop problems. He has not been able to be a dominant target earner, and bringing in a high-end guy like Cam Coleman is not going to help with that for Wingo. So, unfortunately, he's probably still going to be around that range for target share this year. some wiggle room, could be slightly worse, right? With that addition, could be a little bit better if he takes that next step. But at this rate, he's looking a little bit more like a Luther Burden type of player, where I see some inconsistencies with his game, but he's a fun playmaker with the ball in his hands. But he's got to clean up those drops. I think that's the big issue, for sure.
Wingo's been a weird one for me because you were always higher on him, Aaron, than I was. I think Andy was kind of in between us, on that one. But I mean, he's really kind of. I mean, I guess he was kind of the only show in town. Maybe that's what we can say from last year is like they just really didn't have Emmett Mosley didn't become who we thought he might have, been able to become, and even like the tight ends weren't doing much. It really, I mean, the running backs weren't doing much. It really was like either Wingo or nothing, and that's not saying that much. I don't love the player, but he did more than I guess I kind of expected him to do in year two. I don't know about drafting him in the first 3 rounds of a startup, but I don't hate the player. And it could be a good thing, a guy like Cam Coleman coming in, him not being the number one option. I might end up being higher on Wingo than I ever thought I was going to be. But I guess if you're saying people are drafting him in the first 3 rounds, like I'm never going to be that high.
No, I agree. And he could be a guy who tests really well when it comes to declaring for the NFL draft and in the combine and rises. I actually think like a former Texas player like Matthew Golden. It could be like that kind of a rise. Maybe not the first round, just because when you drop the ball as much as Wingo has, he's got to clean that up. Otherwise, he's not sniffing first round ever. But yeah. So, anyways, good job, Andy. That was I wouldn't say an easy one by any means.
No, I'll take the points. And just to give my thoughts on Wingo, I like him. I think he could be on like a DK Metcalf type trajectory because he is that same, athletic freak, kind of a giant player, deep threat, 6'2", 214. He ran like in high school some crazy 100-meter time as a freshman. So he does have the athletic ability to break out, and like John was saying, maybe like having Cam Coleman opposite him is going to open up the field and some opportunity for him because Parker Livingstone is not a wide receiver 2 or 3 or 4 anywhere in the SEC.
Right. And now he's at Oklahoma, Parker Livingstone is. So I feel like that vacates. And then what's his name? DeAndre Moore, I think is no longer at Texas. So it's like basically Coleman, Wingo, and then Mosley as well. So like that's a good 1-2-3 punch, but still a lot of playing time for those starters.
Absolutely. I think it will be really good news for Arch Manning as well. But that is enough about Guess the Guy and Ryan Wingo. It is time to dive into Devy. Alrighty, and like I said, we are doing a 2026 rookie mock. We will do, just be the three of us. We will be doing a snake draft order, and I'll be showing it on the screen as we go. We just determined our draft order ahead of time, and it's going to be Aaron with the 101, Andy with the 102, and myself with the 103, and then we'll snake back and forth throughout the first and second rounds. That's right, we will be doing 2 rounds here. And obviously, yes, it'll be a super flex draft. We can even say tight end premium, even though I hate when like I'm fine with it being a tight end premium because that's like become the norm and everything. That's fine. I hate when people have to caveat their picks with, oh, it's tight end premium, so because that generally means that you're making a bad pick. So hopefully none of us will be doing that tonight, or at least hopefully it'll be in the second round if we decide that we're going to be making that kind of it's tight end premium, right? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and take this guy now. But Aaron,
I'm definitely going to say that at some point today.
Oh, I mean, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and anytime anyone really decides, like, hey, I'm going to make a bad pick here, they have to caveat it with, hey, this is tight end premium, right? Oh, okay, yeah, I'm gonna do that then. But Aaron, you are on the clock with the 101, the all-time coveted 101 pick. Who you taking?
101 is typically a very fun pick, and I'm going to go hopefully with a fun selection here. It might be even spicy, but Jeremiah Love landing with the Kansas City Chiefs there in the early first round in the NFL draft. That is a fun landing spot in this mock, and in this rookie draft, I'm going to take the dominant running back who should be just the clear focal point for a very effective, explosive offense, or he'll bring some explosiveness to an offense that sorely needs that. So you're seeing, Travis Kelce, if he retires or otherwise, he's kind of fading out. I know there's some question marks when Mahomes will be healthy for the year, but they're going to need to rely on a explosive, fun running back, and that's Jeremiah Love coming out of Notre Dame. So I will go with him at the 101. Maybe surprising because there's a lot of good wide receiver talent at the top of this draft as well.
No, absolutely. We got Brett in the chat saying thank you. Thank you for listening and being a part of the chat. Hopefully you enjoy this and obviously chime in if you have anything to say about it. Jeremiah Love, I probably should have at least covered the first round of the NFL draft mock that we're going over here because like Aaron said, the Chiefs drafted Jeremiah Love at 109 in the NFL draft, or at ninth overall in the NFL draft. And so that obviously makes a very, very exciting pick, and obviously enough for Aaron to go ahead and just pick him here at the 101. The rest of the first round, we'll get into the second round a little bit later, but the rest of the first round was obviously 101. Mendoza going to the Raiders. Fifth overall pick, Jordan Tyson goes to the Giants. The Saints took Carnell Tate at eighth overall. The Jets took Mekhi Lemon at 16th overall. The Vikings took Denzel Boston at 18th overall. The Steelers took Ty Simpson, trying to fix the QB issues that they have there at 21st overall. The Bills took Casey Concepcion, another slot player for the Bills, or at least a player that could be in the slot for them. They love those types. And then the Broncos took Kenyon Sadiq at 30th overall. So that'll be the first round, and obviously as we're making these picks, we'll cover where they were drafted and all that again. But I just wanted to at least cover that first round there. That brings Andy on the clock. What do you think of the Jeremiah Love 101, and what are you going with?
Well, I picked the 102 because I wasn't going to be upset with whoever I got here at 102 because obviously Jeremiah Love, if he goes to the Chiefs, is such a sexy landing spot, in that Andy Reid offense with Mahomes. Just another weapon that he'll be utilized in the passing game there. He's much better than Isaiah Pacheco. I don't think anyone's going to deny that. And Pacheco has been successful in that offense in the past, not necessarily this year. I think, which is a sign that they're looking to move on to somebody else, and I think Jeremiah Love will fit that role pretty nicely. But at 102 here, I was always intending to either take Love or Jordan Tyson. It's just too good of a landing spot, a top 10, top 5 draft capital. Going to the Giants, playing across from Malik Neighbors, Jackson Dart throwing in the ball. It seems like it's a can't lose situation. All the best teams seem to have like that one, wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 1A. At least in like these high volume passing offenses, which I think that's where the Giants are headed, and they've got the pieces to do that. As long as they can keep Dart protected, as long as they can have a good complementary run game, which Cam Skattebo, he's not like a game breaker or anything, but he's obviously a really good football player. So I think that he can definitely support them in that way. And Tyson's just too good. Like, he's the wide receiver 1 in this class. It didn't matter if he got drafted at 5th or 20th. I think I probably would have taken him over the other options right here.
Yeah, actually, I love the Giants landing spot. At first I was, kind of iffy about it because, like, do we really want to compete with neighbors and things? But honestly, I feel like they can just, they're both so if they can both play any position on the field, and so I feel like they can, especially if you have a quality coach there, which they do, and use them properly. I really feel like they can both be used any way they want to be or that they need to be, and that's going to be huge for both of them. Obviously, Neighbors is going to be coming off the knee injury, so he might not be 100% to start the season anyway. It could be a way for Tyson to start off hot, and then maybe later on they kind of split time and everything. But we have a QB that we love, a young QB. They can all grow together. I love the landing spot. I love the pick at 102. I get taking Jeremiah Love with the Chiefs landing spot at 101. Honestly, I feel like you could really switch those, and I'd still be happy. Either way, I'm pretty happy with it, just because of these two landing spots. I feel like you can really make a case for either one of them to be the 101. Aaron, what do you think of Tyson here? I don't think you're going to have too many qualms here.
No, I do like the pick, and the landing spot's really solid. Think about like Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison or something like that, but then you actually get some quality, consistent quarterback play we anticipate out of Jackson Dart for the Giants. So at the end of the day, yeah, will Tyson dominate consistently with the presence of Neighbors there? Maybe not, but there still will be enough for him to be very relevant, and he's a good player. So I think that takes some pressure off of him as well. And like John had mentioned, who knows when Neighbors will actually get healthy? There could be setbacks. There could be definitely room for big opportunity for Tyson at some point too.
Yeah, so I am up for back-to-back picks here, and honestly, you guys made this one pretty easy for having the back-to-back picks. Honestly, like, I don't even necessarily care about the order here, but to try to be as realistic as possible, I'm going to stick to my guns, and I'm going to go with Carnell Tate at the 103, and then I will go. Ooh, I should probably capitalize that. And then I will go with Fernando Mendoza at the 104, and that will. I mean, obviously, when we're posting these, this is going to be one team. Obviously, that's not realistic. That's not the way that rookie drafts work. But for the fun of the show, this will be one team. So starting with Carnell Tate and Fernando Mendoza is a nice way to start it out. Tate really surprised me. I've mentioned this in the past. Like, Tate surprised me this year. He took a step forward that I wasn't 100% sure he was going to this season. And honestly, Mendoza did the same thing. Mendoza, I really thought was going to be closer to a backup level QB, and I don't know that he's 100% gotten rid of that stigma or whatever. Like, I don't know that I absolutely love him and think he's the going to be the next Jackson Dart even or anything like that, but I think he's very safe at the very least. He was drafted to the Raiders here. Carnell Tate was drafted to the Saints, by the way. I should probably mention that as well. I mean, I don't know that I love the Saints, QB situation, but he did showed that he could at least be relevant or be viable for these players, and they throw a lot, and so I think it could be in that system they throw so much that Tate and Olave can both feed and both do really well. But with Mendoza, he's going to a system where he's going to have quality players around him. We even, I think, get some wide receivers and things going to the Raiders later on in this draft that might help. Actually, I'm looking at them; they probably won't. But but you have Brock Bowers there. You have some decent players around him, and I think Mendoza's just going to be a safe player for the next few years. So I'm taking him here at 104.
Yeah, I'm a fan of both of those picks. I'm kind of upset that you took Mendoza. I was really hoping you'd reach on another wide receiver here because I'm not terribly excited about the next pick. But it's not because I don't like the player. It's because I don't like where this draft has him going, which is Mekhi Lemon to the Jets. Mekhi Lemon obviously had one of the better statistical seasons in college football as a receiver this year. So there's complaints about, maybe he's a gadget player. I didn't see that. It doesn't really show up in the advanced stat sheets. Yes, the ADOT's a little bit lower than somebody like Carnell Tate or Jordan Tyson, but I think he showed that he could, run the underneath stuff as well as the over the top stuff. So it's not as big of a concern for me. But the Jets' offense is just seems to be in shambles right now. We don't really know what their quarterback situation is going to be. We don't, necessarily know what the health of Garrett Wilson's going to be. That could be a plus for him, but it just seems like a lot of and Brees Hall. I think is he a free agent this next season?
Yep.
So there's just a lot of things in this offense that aren't necessarily exciting, but you always preach, don't draft the situation, draft the player. So I'm going to stick to my guns here and just say talent over spot and go Mekhi Lemon. I do believe in the player. I think he will, in the right system be utilized properly.
Man, I have to say, when I first saw Mekhi Lemon to the Jets, I laughed. I laughed out loud. I mean, I just imagine the people just sitting there going, why? Like, why me? If that actually happened, the people that are pushing Lemon up to 101 and the wide receiver one and all that kind of stuff. I mean, the truth of the matter is he is not as good as Garrett Wilson. He will not be the wide receiver one on that team, no matter what. And that's before you even consider the QB issues that they probably have, because I mean, they, at least in this mock draft, they didn't fix anything, they didn't change anything. So I don't know who they're magically bringing in to fix things. I'm already scared enough for Garrett Wilson as it is. Now you got to be scared for Mekhi Lemon. I honestly, I would not. I mean, I guess I'll give you some credit for kind of sticking to your guns here and everything, but I would not have blamed you for skipping over him. Although, and I will say, there's a lot of landing spots here that I don't necessarily love. So, but this, we're sticking to our guns here. We're sticking to this draft. Aaron, what do you think of the pick, and who are you taking? You got two.
Yes. Well, first of all, I like the pick there. I would have taken Mekhi Lemon easily if he fell to me to this next slot. Trust in the talent long term. Right? Maybe 1 year of having to deal with some bad quarterback play, but there could always be some turnaround there. Though it's the Jets, I mean, unfortunately, they just haven't had the best of luck with their quarterback play of late. And the previous two picks, I also liked Carnell Tate, Fernando Mendoza, all of the tier one ish players are off the board right now in my estimation, in my ranks, and that's pretty consensus, right? There's some drop off, at least from what we said on this podcast. I don't really like to be after that 105 mark quite as much in drafts. So, and let's see, Brett in the chat, he says, hoping in real life the Rams can get Lemon at 13. That would be a game changer. That would be really fun. Much more in comparison, at least. So, good call there. But yes, okay, I am up at the 106, 107 back-to-back picks here. The fall off here is steep, unfortunately. The landing spots are also brutal, like John had mentioned. I'm going to go with a good landing spot, however, for Casey Concepcion, wide receiver out of Texas A&M, going to the Buffalo Bills. They are in desperate need of a playmaking wide receiver. I get that there's some overlap with Khalil Shakir and Casey Concepcion's skill set, and I think that forces Casey Concepcion into some fun opportunities working down the field more at Buffalo. Yes, he's going to get some slot touches and some underneath and intermediate roll routes and all of those touches, but I think at the end of the day, we saw some down the field abilities out of Casey Concepcion this last season. We're going to need that when he goes to Buffalo, or Buffalo needs that as a team. They need some explosiveness, stretch the field. I believe they signed, what was that, Brandon Cooks, like trying to get that. At this point in his career, Cooks does not supply the juice. Casey Concepcion should supply some juice there for the Bills. So that's my first pick. I will go with my second pick here, and then you guys can give me my feedback. I understand my draft grade is not going to be an A here because of the options, right? But I'm going to go a little bit of a homer pick, but I like the landing spot. Jonah Coleman, running back from Washington, going to the Minnesota Vikings. So I'm just thinking of, what is the status of that backfield? And we have Aaron Jones, another year older, just becoming a little bit less durable year after year. Jordan Mason, I think there's more upside with a guy like Jonah Coleman going to the Vikings. I think he'll actually test better than expected, considering he had a pretty poor second half of the season, right, after getting banged up. So a lot of that analytical profile is definitely nuked due to that injury and just trying to play through that. But we saw beginning of the season, we've seen previously in his career, there's a lot to be excited about with Jonah Coleman. I'm kind of excited for that landing spot from a long-term and potentially even some short-term upside there. So those are my back-to-back picks.
Well, I have to say, I agree with Brett here. He was really impressed with Concepcion and how he was more physical this year. He got stronger and faster. He had to take a pretty big step forward this year in becoming a better player, and he did. He did everything right this season, and I don't know if it was just the transfer. We talked on a recent pod about how a lot of these transfers are failing. Concepcion was one of the few where he actually got better. Not only did he not fail, but he actually got better as a player. And he really impressed me. I think we all kind of agreed that we were all pretty wrong on Concepcion because, but I mean, he took a step forward, so I guess everyone was kind of wrong on him. He was really just a gadget player, in the previous seasons. And this year, he completely changed. So I love the pick there. I don't know with. We found out today the Bills are moving Joe Brady up to head coach from offensive coordinator, and I kind of hate that news. I hate his offense, especially for a guy like Josh Allen. It's just like it's that spread it out, throw it to 20 different guys. A lot of running and all that. I don't love it, but maybe that works with the KC Concepcion kind of player, and so maybe it'll be a solid thing. I guess I don't hate the landing spot, but I don't love it just because of that. If they had gotten someone else in there, it could have been an amazing landing spot for me. But that doesn't also mean that Joe Brady will be there long term. So maybe it'll be something that gets fixed quickly if it doesn't work out. As far as the Jonah Coleman, I won't even say this is a reach. Especially when we start throwing in these landing spots and everything, there's a lot of ugly landing spots. There's a lot of ugly things, and you have to consider draft capital and all that kind of stuff. Jonah Coleman is my running back two, but that's not saying much in this draft class. And so I don't hate the pick. I definitely don't love the pick. I think he will definitely be the goal line back, short yardage back, and all that. I don't know that he's just going to be a stud in the NFL. I just don't think he's shown enough. I was pretty high on Coleman going into the season, but I figured out why that was, and it was from his time in his sophomore year. He actually had like a 13% big time run rate before he transferred over to Washington, and then at Washington it's been like 6% and 6%. And so the way that Beth works, or Debbie Beth works, is it looks at your last two seasons. Well, once we got rid of that sophomore year for big time run rate, all of a sudden Coleman just plummets in the ranks because he got rid of that skyrocketed big time run rate, and ever since then it's just been like are you. Like I feel like he's like a worse version of Audric Estime, and I don't know. Estime hasn't really gotten his shot, but I don't know that I really love it. But landing spot, draft capital, all that kind of stuff, I don't hate it here either. Andy, what do you think of 107 and 106, and then you are up for 108?
Yes, I love the KC Concepcion pick. He definitely evolved this year to show that he's more than just a one-trick pony, which is, that's just kind of how they used him at NC State in minimal capacity. And then Texas A&M really just, spread his wings and showed that he's an all-around player. I think he was the obvious choice at 106. And then things get dicey after 106. Jonah Coleman, I love the situation, right? Because it's a backfield that is, we don't know what's going to happen with Aaron Jones, and we don't think Jordan Mason's any sort of long-term solution there. But to me, Jonah Coleman is just he's just another pawn in that mixture, and just looking at what he did last year at Washington, and he followed his coach Jed Fish to Washington from Arizona. So I was definitely hoping that the success would follow him, but it doesn't seem to have. He had six of his big time runs in the first two games this season, and then the rest of the season he had five. So, and that was like against UC Davis and Colorado State.
Yeah.
There's a lot about Jonah Coleman that I like, and then all of a sudden the season keeps going on, and then all of a sudden I don't like Jonah Coleman anymore. So I like that the situation's good, and just because you don't have a good big time run rate doesn't mean you're not going to get good usage. We saw that with like Cam Scadaboo this year. So it could be a good pick for fantasy just because of the draft capital and where he's headed. But
Oh,
the
thank
player,
you.
I just don't think that he's a good, he's going to be a star long term by any means.
Yeah.
But at 108 here, you know, as as Aaron was making his picks, I thought I was going to take one of the Indiana receivers, and then I started thinking like, what if I took the other Indiana receiver that I like? And I think I'm going to go with landing spot here to make the call, and I'm going to take Omar Cooper at 108, who's going to the Rams in this draft in the second round. He had a better season than Elijah Surratt. Um, and I think he might be younger. He might not be. They might both be fourth year players. But either way, like Omar Cooper looked great this year. He's gonna go play in a Sean McVay offense. We don't know. Devonte Adams is obviously getting old. He's still playing though. Like he's still doing playing at a very high level. So I don't expect him to just fall off a cliff or anything. But you're getting Omar Cooper in there. Puka Nacua is obviously not going anywhere. But teams can operate with three successful wide receivers, and Omar Cooper, he can play any position, any wide receiver position. He can play slot. He can go be the deep threat. So McVay's going to find creative ways to use him, and I think that just this landing spot versus where Surratt is going is kind of the edge here. Which I was like, okay, let's just take Omar Cooper here and plant a flag and call our shot.
Andy, I don't know if you remember our conversation before this season started, where I said that I had Omar Cooper and Elijah Surratt pretty close, and you scoffed. You laughed at me saying, "How could you possibly have Omar Cooper close to Elijah Surratt?" And now you just drafted him ahead of Elijah Surratt. I just want to remind you of that, my friend. You completely sniped me. I hate it. I had two picks, and it was going to be the easiest two picks I've ever made in my life, and you ruined it all.
People can change.
But I mean, it was just too easy, especially with the Rams landing spot. I mean, obviously you can say the concerns of what if Stafford retires. I mean, I feel like they were so close this year. He seemed to have gotten healthier with the injections and everything in the off season. So maybe if he really feels like he feels better this off season, everything, hopefully he won't retire. But I love the pick. I hate that you made it, but I do love the pick there. I think this is actually. I love this. I love doing this, especially with the picks, because this made me really think about these next two picks, especially after you sniped me. It was going to be the easiest two, and then I had to actually think and go like, well, what the hell am I doing here? And I'm looking at it. I have to take Elijah Surratt. I mean, he's my baby. The guy is just. I keep saying silky smooth, and I'm just gonna keep saying it. Like he kind of reminds me of like Amari Cooper out there, and I'm not really like comping the players or anything. I just love like the route running and everything that I see. And it just like it reminds me of like they just get open at will. And like it seems like they're just open, and so I'm taking Elijah Surratt. Yes, the Steelers need a QB. Unfortunately, in this situation, they took Ty Simpson at the 21st overall pick, so they would possibly have a rookie QB throwing to him. Although they came out today, Mike McCarthy came out today saying he really wanted Aaron Rodgers back, and I don't think it would take that much to convince Rodgers to come back for another year, especially if you say, hey, we're getting you a guy like Elijah Surratt that you were missing. Yeah, DK Metcalf is there, but you need more than just the guy that's going to take the top off the field and everything. So I'm taking Surratt here at 109, if I could spell. And then I really had to think about 110 here. And this is not a player that I've taken in any first round or even considered in the first round until this situation, this scenario right here. Now, this is tied in premium, right? I just want to make sure before I make this pick. Okay, I'm going to take Nicholas Singleton going to the Saints. I'm not taking a tight end at all. I said I would not be taking one in the first, and I'm not going to. I'm taking Nicholas Singleton going to the Saints. I've had so many question marks about Singleton all throughout his college career. I've said for years now, if you just combine Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen, you might actually have the perfect running back. And unfortunately, that's never happened. They haven't figured out a way to fuse those two bodies yet. So I'm just sitting here going, this is a great landing spot. This is an offense that is on the rise. Once again, I'm not a long-term believer in Tyler Shuck, but I do believe that offense, as many plays as they run, that they're going to have plenty of opportunities. And you get an athletic guy like Nicholas Singleton drafted in the third round here to the Saints. I kind of love it. And like I've held out hope for Kendre Miller in the past. After he had his like 18th injury in the NFL, I'm done. Like I can't do it anymore. So I will not be having any Kendre Miller on my teams anymore. Nicholas Singleton will be the RB1 there moving forward if this happens. And so I'm going to take him here. He is my RB3 in the class as well. That's not saying much. And, there's another RB that was kind of in the mix. Unfortunately, he was not drafted in those first three rounds in this scenario. So I'm not going to take him here, and I will take Nicholas Singleton. What do you guys think?
Hey, that's a fun and bold one for sure. I've always been a Nick Singleton fan. Coming out of high school, just super athletic guy. We say this, we're like a broken record. Should test really well, great size, lackluster, production and efficiencies has been downhill for years. I mean, it just has not necessarily, especially this year though, right? That's when he really kind of fell off the map, and there must have been something going on. Obviously, there's some things going on from a team level, but I'm thinking from like a personal, individual level. You would think with Singleton. So let's hope he figures that out. And just going back to your other picks here. For example, Elijah Surratt to the Steelers, kind of a fun landing spot with the Steelers franchise, with their history there at the wide receiver position. I still have some question marks with Elijah Surratt, maybe the separation. Like he leads all wide receiver prospects since I think it was 2019 with contested catches, but at the same time, he wins at the best rate amongst all those players too. So he's dominant in those situations. So I do have some concerns with separation at the next level and enough speed and quickness. But at the end of the day, hey, with this list of guys, I think it's a fair pick. And then going back to that Omar Cooper Jr. pick that Andy had at 108 with the Rams, I actually did not see him. I thought he went undrafted in this grouping. So
Oh, no.
I would have very much considered him instead of Jonah Coleman there at 107, but yeah, you snooze, you lose, or whatever the case is. So I thought that was a nice pick there too. He's probably the more intriguing, I actually think, of the two Indiana wide receivers, slightly. But I think there's a little bit more upside there with Omar Cooper, especially with that landing spot with the Rams. That'll be fun. So nice trio of guys there.
Yeah, I've got no more notes on Elijah Surratt. As I stated earlier, that was who I thought I was going to pick until I, had my mind meld and went with Omar Cooper. Nick Singleton, let's not forget about the freshman season. Like, we were all stoked. Like, this was the Devy 101 after that year. So we don't know what happened. There was like injury stuff, and he's still been pretty good. Like, even when can you guys still hear me? Sorry.
Yeah, we can hear you
Okay.
now. You cut out for a second, but you're good.
Because okay, Riverside's just like my recording has stopped. But no, like he still has been pretty good. Um, the big time run rate has still been there. This year kind of dropped a little bit, but let's not pretend like this guy's not some super athlete. And that Saints backfield is in shambles. Like they're never healthy. They just signed Audric Estime off the street this year. So I like the pick there. But I guess that puts me back on the clock here at, what are we at, 111? and this pick's gonna hurt me, whoever I go with, which I haven't even decided on yet.
I mean,
Um,
I feel like this is a tier break, right? Like, are we all in consensus here? This is a tier break, at least with what we're looking at for, for the players that are still available.
You can make that
Absolutely.
argument. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
I would say even before the Singleton pick, maybe. But
Yeah, that's fair too.
I don't love anybody. My gut is telling me that I want to go with Chris Brazell here, so that's what I'm gonna do. Who Chris Brazell went to the Falcons in the second round here. Um, and he had a good season at Tennessee. Played with some other talented wide receivers that I like. I already mentioned Mike Matthews and Braylon Staley at the top of the episode here, and he was good in Tulane as a true sophomore. Then kind of took like a gap year, kind of a learning year, his first year at Tennessee, and then really stood out last season. You know, he's a down the field threat kind of guy. Um, the yards per route run are where I'm at. 1,000 yard receiver, um, getting good draft capital. Big tall dude. I don't know how I can't speak to his athleticism, um, but he doesn't need to be like a speed demon or anything at 6'5". He's going to be a jump ball guy if he needs to be. But based on his ADOT and everything, it seems like he can take the top off the defense if he needs to. Um, and he's going to go play opposite of Drake London, who we already know is a star in the league. Again, though, it comes down to quarterback. Like, who's the quarterback going to be for the Falcons? But he's like, if I'm just taking all the names and the places out of it, I'll just go with the guy that I probably like the most right now out of what's left, which isn't saying a lot. Like, I'm not a big Chris Brazell fan, but I just I just think that he's like the best of what's left right now for me.
Yeah, I can't say that I'm a big fan of this one, but I will admit that it's starting to get ugly, especially when you consider these landing spots and things. At least he got second round draft capital. He's not going to the worst spot. He probably will be the guy to replace. Oh man, my mind just went blank for the wide receivers for Atlanta, but he's probably going to be that guy that's going to take the top off the defense at least. And I can't say that I hate it. There's a chance that Kyle Pitts moves on, so he really could be the number two option when it's all said and done for the Falcons. So I don't hate the pick here. I definitely don't love it. And we just lost Andy, so hopefully he'll be back here in a second, or he's mad at me because I made fun of his pick. Aaron, what do you think of Brazil and who you taken? You actually have two back to back. Although we'll do a recap after your first pick.
Yeah, and he's definitely mad about the Chris Brazil feedback. But no, I think at the end of the day, Brazil he's a confusing player to evaluate because Brazil has the route running ability. He flashes sometimes just some great things on film, and then at other times you're like, why is he disappearing in games? He could be more physical. You could poke some holes in the athleticism, but he's a fine athlete and a little bit of a late bloomer there too. Though he showed some early flashes before he transferred up to Tennessee. I don't know what happened last year, but yes, definitely an intriguing guy there with second round draft capital, but I also agree with the concerns with him, right? Very much boomer bust, potential bust here for sure. But we can say that with a lot of these guys. And somebody who I think who has at least a decent enough floor, some ceiling as well, and first round draft capital in this NFL mock draft is Kenyon Sadiq, tight end that I've been on. I know I get that the end of the season was not the best. He's a guy who is an athletic tight end, not a perfect profile by any means, but the Broncos spending first round draft capital to get a weapon like him, I think it'll be pretty fun. A guy who replaces Evan Ingram, who's just at this point kind of past his prime. So Kenyon Sadiq going in the end of the first to the Broncos is who I am wrapping up the first round pick or first round of this draft with at 112.
I know obviously you've always been the Sadiq guy. You had even higher hopes for him. And we've definitely had some fun with that. But do you worry at all with the Broncos offense and just how many players are there? It kind of feels like it kind of feels like the Packers or somebody at this point where you just have so many players that like all seem to be quality players at least at points in the season, and yet now you're adding another receiving option to that. We saw Evan Ingram. I mean, people thought that Ingram was going to be amazing this year in that Joker role and things, and I mean he basically became nothing. Now we can say that Ingram is definitely towards the back end of his career, so I'm not necessarily comping the players or anything like that and saying Sadiq will be Ingram. But does that worry you at all? Is it just at this point you're sticking to your guns and you're saying, hey, we got first round draft capital, we got a decent landing spot, like that kind of thing?
So some of it is sticking to the evaluation and not necessarily buying into some of the decline in usage and effectiveness that we saw down the stretch for Oregon, who also just struggled to pass the ball. Like Dante Moore, there's a reason he's not in this draft class, right? He was not impressive enough as a quarterback, especially making reads down the field as the season went on in particular. But yes, there's holes with his profile, but I think he'll test pretty well. First round draft capital. And like you said, the situation makes you question a little bit, but that's because I think Evan Ingram is past his prime. I think that's maybe a bigger piece of, okay, why was the tight end not utilized more? Like Sean Payton has shown a tendency when he believes in a guy to get him some touches. And we have a young up and coming guy. Like if Sadiq stayed another year in college, like we could see that further trajectory up that we normally see with tight ends, but he's declaring early, right? So he has time to grow. He's a very young player still. So yeah, that's I guess my rationale there. And he is a guy who I mean, he's just going to have a good opportunity there. Whether it's, a clear lead role, probably not, because like you said, it's crowded there. But there's also not a bunch of alphas there. There's not like Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, or, big 1-2 punch there to contend with. It's a bunch of other guys that are siphoning off, 15, 20% market shares here or there.
Yeah, I get it. And real quick, we'll go over the first round. I guess I should put Aaron's pick in there. I didn't want to believe it was true, but it was. Kenyon Sadiq at the 112. No. And real quick, it was at the 101, Jeremiah Love, then Jordan Tyson, Carnell Tate, Fernando Mendoza, Makai Lemon, Casey Concepcion, Jonah Coleman, Omar Cooper Jr. with the snipe from Andy, Elijah Surratt, Nicholas Singleton, Chris Brazell, and Kenyon Sadiq. I don't know if you had asked us a month ago if we could have ever guessed that this was going to be the first round of our rookie mock. Although we are going with this NFL draft mock from A to Z Sports, so obviously we're just trying to base things on these landing spots and things as well. But we're going to have to pick up our speed here a little bit. We're obviously going over time at this point, but we will do a little bit more of a lightning round for the second round. Aaron, who you got at 201?
Yes, I am not loving where some of these guys either landed or some of the options here on the board. So I'm going to go in this super flex format with the quarterback here in Ty Simpson and put a little bit of faith that the Pittsburgh Steelers can get some development and whatnot out of him at the quarterback position. So it does not feel good, right? But he is a first round draft selection here. And he faded as the season went on, right? He just did not look comfortable within that offense. So, yeah, if there were better options here, I would select them. In most drafts, right, I would be pushing him down like in the Will Levis ranges, right, and guys who should not have been going in the early second. But this is not drafts of previous years, so that is why I'm going with the first round quarterback who has an opportunity to start right away. Decent enough weapons there. Totally new regime going there for Pittsburgh Steelers. Ty Simpson, 201.
I definitely am not a Simpson fan, but with the landing spot and everything, I get the pick here, and I don't hate it, don't love it, but it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, any first round quarterback, and you're in the second round, super flex, just go because he's gonna get starts for that team eventually, and even if he sucks, you can probably flip him for about what you paid for him at that point. Um, I am going to. This is tight end premium, right? I
Oh no.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go ahead and take the actual tight end one in this class, uh, who is Vanderbilt's tight end, and going to a far better landing spot in my opinion, with the Chiefs and Travis Kelsey's question, future in question, whether or not he retires or plays another year, tries to run it back. Either way, like he's gonna, Kelsey's missed time throughout the past few years. He's gonna get opportunities there. And we're seeing now, like even the tight end two in that Chiefs offense being mixed in quite a bit more frequently. But I think as a pass catcher, Stowers is the best tight end in this class. Yeah, he's a little bit older, but that for tight end, it's never been an issue, and I don't plan on making it an issue now. I think he's the most talented one out there, and he's going to perhaps, one of the best offenses in the league. I know it wasn't the case this year, but you got Mahomes, so eventually, things are going to happen for the people that are on the field with a quarterback like Mahomes. And at 202 in a tight end premium league, I'm going to go ahead and take Eli Stowers because, like I said, he is my tight end one. I think it was a third round draft capital, which isn't great, but it's still day two, so I'm not going to hate on it too much.
Yeah, I did go back and forth there on selecting him instead of Sadiq for sure. And he's a little bit better receiving option to this point in their careers as prospects. And the landing spot, like you said, is a little bit better with the Chiefs for Eli Stowers. But the draft capital, definitely not as strong. The vote of confidence there, much lower. But yeah, and I see John is putting a pick in here. All right, tell us about that.
It's right. I'm trying to move this along, but I'm going with Jeremy Bernard. Some people might be turned off by the Panthers landing spot, but I'm looking at the Panthers drafting him in the second round. Obviously he's not going to be better than Tet McMillan, but we've seen Jalen Coker be able to do things. Jalen Coker's an undrafted free agent, player, or, pretty sure he was undrafted. If he wasn't, he was a very late round player. And I mean, he's done some decent things. Jeremy Bernard's a better player than Jalen Coker, and so I think that they can all kind of grow together. I still believe in Bryce Young. He has not been in the best situation for the first few years. Yes, he's smaller and all that kind of stuff. I get it. No one's going to replace Bryce Young anytime soon. So I just think. They, like I said, they can all kind of grow together. Tet in his second year, get Jeremy Bernard here. And we've been saying for a while, at least I've been saying, like Jeremy Bernard's definitely not a sexy pick, but he just catches the ball. He just scores points, and he's just kind of always there. And so, yeah, I don't love the player, but here at 203, especially in this draft class with that landing spot, I kind of feel like this is the Jeremy Bernard spot, at least in this scenario. And then honestly, for 204, I'm going to go with the first player who was not drafted on this draft board, and I'm going to go with Jadarian Price. We have no landing spot here, so we can't say, who he went to or anything like that. I don't love the fact that he doesn't really have a receiving profile at all in his college career, but man, is he an explosive athlete, and give me explosive athletes, especially at the running back position, especially in this draft class. And so even though we don't know where he's going or anything like that in this scenario, I still feel like he's my RB4 at the very least. Going into, or, he's my RB4 the way things fell this time. But, in real life, he could easily be my RB3 when it's all said and done. And I can see, I can see a scenario where I'm drafting him at like the end of the first round and stuff when it all, comes around in April and May for a rookie draft. So yeah, give me Jeremy Bernard and Jadarian Price.
Jadarian Price pick is nice. Yeah. Yeah. And that is somebody I was very much considering here in the second, despite falling to day three. Got to believe in the talent there and hoping that it's a good spot, right? It's just a mystery box. It could be blocked, but we're assuming some optimism. A team selected him because they want him at some point. And then I'm fine with Jeremy Bernard. It's just kind of underwhelming from a yards per route run standpoint. There's some metrics there that just, and I get that's John's dying, right. That is one metric that is still important. I mean, it's not a metric that doesn't matter whatsoever. It's just not the end all be all. And there are just some red flags to his profile, let's just say. And this is a guy who likes Jeremy Bernard a fair amount, or I liked him this season. But yeah, there's definitely some red flags there, especially with him not being an alpha for that team. But again, can't hate on it. It's not necessarily hate here because it's in the second, and we see how this draft is unfolding. Some kind of gross picks.
Yeah. I don't like Jeremy Bernard. I do like Jadarian Price. I'll just leave it at that. Jalen Coker is better than Jeremy Bernard, by the way. Just because he went to Holy Cross doesn't mean you can't like the guy. And he was undrafted. And his yards per route run were over 3 for his last 2 seasons. So, yards per route run. For me, I want to draft Trinidad Chambliss, but honestly, I think he's going back to school with all that. So, I don't want to draft him. I'm just not going to draft him. I'm going to pretend he's not even on this thing. I'm going to take my next wide receiver. I think I've only taken wide receivers. So I will take Jacoby Lane going to the Chargers. Second round. Chargers got sort of an interesting wide receiver situation with Quentin Johnston and Lad McConkey. Like, what's really going on? Is there really a true alpha there? No. Jacoby Lane's not going to be that either, but he's just going to mix in with it, and maybe he ends up being the guy that kind of has the bigger market share after a few games or maybe a season of developing into that offense. And you've got a quarterback who we like with Justin Herbert, who maybe hasn't really lived up to all of his expectations, but he's still, I think, one of the top 10 quarterbacks in this league as far as passing volume is concerned. I think the offense is good as a playoff team. So I'll take Jacoby Lane here and pair him up with my first round pick, his USC teammate, Mekhi Lemon.
Aaron, you are up for 2. I was always told if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. So I'm not going to respond to Andy's pick here.
Yeah, Jacoby Lane, definitely a guy who started off the season banged up and did not necessarily excel from a dominant standpoint, but the traits there are at least really, really strong from a jump ball standpoint, from an outside perimeter receiver standpoint. That's where he's going to thrive. He could score a lot of touchdowns in the right opportunity there. We'll see if he would get that. I guess I'm not, so sure about that landing spot either. But the Chargers, I feel like that's just logjam right now for any sort of young wide receivers. We're seeing that with Trey Harris, unfortunately, play out. And I think Trey Harris is a little bit better in comparison. But anyways, I'm going to go with the last remaining skill position player selected in the first round of the NFL draft. This guy is a top 4 receiver for Daniel Jeremiah in the entire draft. This guy has been mocked and ridiculed on this podcast for maybe good reason, but that is Denzel Boston, Vikings first round pick in this draft. And Denzel Boston, I had to pick him eventually, and I honestly don't like the landing spot for I don't love the landing spot. However, I have to realize that Jordan Addison is an absolute knucklehead. He could be suspended again. He could be released, traded. We don't know. And so that slots in Denzel Boston in a prominent role in a Minnesota Vikings offense where we know that number 2 receiver and even sometimes number 3 receiver can get quite involved. So I'm not going to say like Denzel Boston is this game-changing wide receiver, but there are fans out there. There are people that I really enjoy their content and their analysis with prospecting, and they are just absolutely sold with Denzel Boston out there as a prospect. So maybe we are just wrong here with our prospect evaluation in his case. Maybe he is one of those outliers who kind of slips through the cracks, late bloomer, some red flags, but at the same time, he's got some strong ball skills. He's not the most dynamic mover out there, but he's got enough for his size where I have interest here. Definitely selected in the first round, and I'll take him at 206. And like you guys said, I have back-to-back picks here. Andy mentioned this guy. I don't know what to do. Are we considering Trinidad Chambliss? He is in this mock draft, going to the Jets in the second. Is he fair
He
game
is
or no?
available, my friend.
I mean, I'll take him. Another guy who has potentially a fairly clear role for QB1 position. Definitely some rushing upside. He had 1 year of starting at the P4 level, and he looked really, really good for, yes, a fantasy friendly offense at Ole Miss, but a team that really exceeded expectations considering they had to go to a quote unquote backup. And Chambliss really led that with a lot of confidence, and he flashed some traits with his arm, his mobility, and some poise at times during the season. He's not the perfect player. He is probably not going to solve all the problems for the Jets, but he's also a fun quarterback with some rushing upside, and sometimes we just want to take a shot on that.
Yeah, I mean, I've not been the biggest proponent of Boston, but he was my next wide receiver. So I have to agree with the pick at 206. I don't love it when people are pushing him into the first round, but at 206, especially, I mean, I hate that we're saying it over and over again, but especially in this draft class, I could see taking Denzel Boston there. And, with the Jets landing spot for Chambliss, I don't hate it. I mean, I don't know. We still don't have an actual answer of what's happening with him. So, for our purposes, he's going to the NFL, but that very well could not be true. And we'll see what happens when it's all said and done. Even though he's been denied, but they're going to get an injunction. I mean, who knows? I really have no idea how this stuff works anymore. Andy, you are up at the 208.
All right, I'm literally, just so everyone knows, like I wasn't excited to take Jacoby Lane with my last pick. I'm actually even more like the guys left in this mock draft are disgusting to me. So I'm also going to go off and pick a mystery box day 3 player and take Eric McAllister, TCU wide receiver, who honestly, like if he would have gone in the third round, I would have taken him well above Jacoby Lane. But I'm taking McAllister here. Like he's had 2 solid seasons at TCU. He was great at Boise State. I think he's a 5th year guy, but with what's left on the board here, wherever he ends up, he's going to get a better opportunity than the guys we have like Chris Bell, who's coming off an injury. He's going to the Browns. No thanks. Deion Burks is going to be buried on the Bucks depth chart in this mock draft scenario. I hope anyone who's listened to us knows our thoughts on Zachariah Branch, and Ted Hurst and Josh Cameron are just not names that I would consider in the second round in any format. So I'm taking Eric McAllister, going with talent. Hopefully he went early in the 4th round. I would imagine he would have, because he's definitely one of the more talented wide receivers in this draft class.
I feel like you're doing this on purpose to hurt me. First Omar Cooper Jr., now Eric McAllister. Um, I I knew who my first pick was at 209. Like it's been set in stone for hours now, and yet here we are. You take Eric McAllister. I don't. Man, Brett is a big fan of McAllister as well. Says very physical, deceptively fast too. I have comped him to Quentin Johnston, but with hands. And imagine how good that player could be if he could actually catch the ball. Well, that's Eric McAllister. Man, that one hurt. I'm not gonna lie, that hurt a lot. I cannot wait to find out where he goes. Right now, he's being projected to be drafted at 199 overall. I cannot imagine that happens. I really think he's going to be a third or a fourth round pick at the very latest, and I'm very excited to see where he goes. Honestly, I feel like he should be a second round pick, if it was me doing the evaluation. But obviously, I am not doing that just yet. So I'm up here at 209 and 210, and you just ruined me, Andy. I had my 209. I don't even know what to do. I don't know what to do with my hands. Honestly, like I even kind of had Chambliss as like a backup in case I needed it. And then he went, right before that. So I don't even know what to do at this point. I'm just going to quit the draft. No, I I'm going to take a player that I never thought I would have taken. Although he's being projected to be closer to a first round pick by a lot of rookie mocks and things like that. I'm going to take Chris Bell out of Louisville, and I don't understand why he's still being projected to be drafted in like the early second because he tore his ACL so late. I can't imagine that like teams are just going to fall in love with that. But it seems like nothing's changed. Like we're getting deeper and deeper into this process, and people are still saying he's going to be like a late first or early second round pick, and he's going to the Browns, which is not the sexiest spot, but he could easily be the wide receiver one for the Browns. And I mean, that's only saying so much. Got to take it with a grain of salt. But at 209, you're telling me I'm taking the wide receiver one for a team. Hopefully he can heal up and be healthy and all that. I definitely do not love the player, but he's easily my next player, my next wide receiver. So if I get sniped in rookie drafts with Eric McAllister going, guess who I'm going next? I'm going Chris Bell. And then at 210, I'm gonna throw everyone for a loop. Let me look at my RBs real quick just to make sure. Um, Ooh, I could do that, but that's not as much fun. Man, do I want to have fun or do I want to make the better pick? I think, I think, you know what? It's a down RB class, so I'm gonna go with an RB here. I was gonna go with the tight end. I was gonna say, is it tight end premium? And I was gonna take my boy Justin Jolie, but I'm not gonna do it. I do think that he will end up being drafted higher than people think when it's all said and done. But I am going to take Mike Washington Jr. here at 210. And honestly, this is not a player that I absolutely love, but he's got great size. He has good enough athleticism. His big time run rate for a player of his size is excellent. There's a lot of things to like about Mike Washington, and he's going to the Senior Bowl. He could easily get that Senior Bowl bump, and he was not drafted here. But like players like Emmett Johnson were taken to the Broncos. Like, there's no way I'm taking Emmett Johnson. It's just not happening. But I will take Mike Washington here. And I think he could be like a third round pick when it's all said and done if he gets that senior Bowl bump. And if that happens, I think he's going to jump guys like Emmett Johnson, Katron Allen, like players like that. So I'm taking Mike Washington Jr. at 210.
I actually love the Mike Washington pick. He's a guy that I've always had high on my list just because statistically he popped last year. And I like the Chris Bell pick too. I think, even with the ACL, like the other, oh man, I'm looking at the list of players on this draft that are left. It's nobody. Like I would take none of these guys. And it's crazy because, we're not even at the end of the second round and this is easily like the most disgusting draft class I've ever seen. Usually we can get into like the third and fourth round. I can find guys that I'm still excited about. Um, I don't even know who to take, honestly. I'm trying to like think of anyone. Um, I guess I'm gonna also go off script again and go with Nick Singleton's backfield mate at Penn State and take Katron Allen, wherever he might end up. Uh, in day three and just hope that that's a good situation. The only other running back on this board was Emmett Johnson, who is going to the Broncos to, I guess, be in a committee with RJ Harvey because they took him in the second round last year. And neither of them are very good, but like together maybe they might be okay, but like that's not good for fantasy. So I'll just roll the dice with Katron Allen, who has had some good seasons that he's put together. Had some bad seasons as well, or bad season as well. But I'd rather just go with somebody that I'm more familiar with and more, you know, excited about from a prospect standpoint than just try somebody based on draft capital.
And as of right now, I do actually have Emmett Johnson and Katron Allen ahead of Mike Washington, but I believe that's because of draft capital, right? I have Mike Washington projected to go in like the fifth or sixth round or something like that, and I have those guys projected to go much earlier. With running backs, like I really do care about draft capital and where you land, and like the team has to actually like invest in you to give you that opportunity. With other positions, I don't care nearly as much. Like Eric McAllister, I don't care. You draft him at 250, I'm still drafting him. But with the running backs, it does seem to matter a lot more. But I kind of have a feeling, and I wanted to kind of put my stamp on Washington. I have a feeling he's going to get that Senior Bowl bump, and that that we might see him a little bit earlier than that. And like I said, Allen is ahead of him, so I definitely cannot hate on the Allen pick. Aaron, you're up to wrap us up.
Yes, I think you guys made some interesting points. And as far as going back to some of the picks there, I have not necessarily been the most complimentary of Katron Allen, but he's always a instinctual, solid runner. Is he a great athlete? Is he dynamic? This and that? Not really, right? But Katron Allen coming out of Penn State has been solid. I don't mind that pick, but he is a day three back. Like I don't know what that's going to look like here. Going to Brett here. Brett said Allen was excellent this season. He also said that Washington, so Mike Washington, going back to John's pick at the 210 slot, he impressed Brett this year, but not as much as Katron Allen or Emmett Johnson. And I would also agree. Mike Washington, to me, he had a good year, but he's way older than all the other backs or all the other players he's playing against the field on in college. I mean, he's just very much just older, bigger, faster, stronger than everybody. He's not going to be that at the NFL level. I don't think he's truly a special back. You go back to previous years in college, why was he not dominating more at lower levels of competition? And then all of a sudden at Arkansas, I think it's just purely again bigger, faster, stronger, and older. So to me, I don't think there's much there with Washington, but I guess there's not a lot of options at this point as you guys laid out. And then one other thing that Brett brought up in the chat too was just the injury for Boston this year definitely hurt his production. So we have to acknowledge that a little bit too, going back to more the middle second round. But to wrap up this mock draft, I will draft guy that we just talked about a little bit there, Emmett Johnson, running back from Nebraska, who had a very productive season from a gross numbers standpoint. So raw numbers looked really good, forced a lot of missed tackles, and had a lot of yards. Not the most dynamic back by any means, but if he is bringing something similar to what J.K. Dobbins did this last season, I'm just not convinced that Sean Payton really wants to ride or heavily utilize R.J. Harvey long term. There's just something weird going on there. He doesn't want to feature the guy. Maybe he wants a committee, but that's not always a Sean Payton thing either. Like if he's more comfortable putting Emmett Johnson out there and just feeding him touches, going in the third round there to the Broncos, I think could be telling and worthy of a late second round selection.
Yeah, I can't hate on it. I mean, like I said, both of those players are ahead of Washington. I'm hoping for a rise from Washington, but I think that's kind of where this RB class is. We wrapped up the second round with three straight RBs, but we didn't have. I mean, we had Price before that, and that was it. In the second round, so it's not the greatest RB class. There's definitely going to be players like Johnson who get pushed up, especially higher. People really do seem to love him a lot. I just don't think he has the athleticism to truly be a difference maker. But with where he was drafted, with with the team maybe not being in love with R.J. Harvey, like Aaron said, definitely do not mind the pick there. To cover the second round, we had Ty Simpson at 201, Eli Stowers, Jeremy Bernard, Jadarian Price, Jacoby Lane, Denzel Boston, Trinidad Chambliss, Eric McAllister, Chris Bell, Mike Washington Jr., Allen, and Emmett Johnson to round out the second round. And then the players that we did not take that were taken in this NFL mock draft by A to Z Sports were Dion Burks going to the Bucks in the second round at 46th overall. Zachariah Branch going to the Raiders at 67 overall. Michael Trigg going to the Dolphins at 75 overall. Garrett Nussmeier going to the Dolphins at 90 overall. Ted Hurst going to the Niners. The Niners keep ninering for some reason. And then Josh Cameron going to the Seahawks. I mean, how are we feeling about that Dion Burks pick? And then obviously we'll talk about Zachariah Branch as well going to the Raiders. I said maybe the Raiders will get some help for Fernando Mendoza on top of Brock Bowers. Unfortunately, they got rid of Jacoby Myers. I can't think that we're loving the Branch pick there, but do you think he could be a solid pick? And then Dion Burks going to the Bucks.
Personally, no interest in Deion Burks to the Bucks. Just so crowded there. I mean, Emeka Ibuka can hardly dominate targets with how deep that room is. And again, it might change going into this next season, but Deion Burks will not scratch or not sniff any significant playing time there for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, despite second round draft capital if that happens. Zachariah Branch to the Raiders. That actually could be a lot of fun from a slot role, short A dot, like not maybe a ton of fantasy production, but from a PPR standpoint, I can get behind it, selecting him in one of the next picks here. And, going down to like Michael Trigg to the Dolphins, tight end, okay. Garrett Nussmeier to the Dolphins, okay. Ted Hurst to the Niners. I think Andy already said he's not interested in that. I'm not really either. And then Josh Cameron to the Seahawks, not so much interest. So most of the rest of these guys, not a lot of interest there. I guess Zachariah Branch to the Raiders is kind of one of those intriguing spots where they need that wide receiver help.
I
Yeah, I
guess
think
Josh Cameron. Oh, real quick, I just want to say Josh Cameron does interest me a little bit. He's not a terrible player. I don't think he's any kind of game changer or anything like that. But just thinking about who they have, and I mean, they don't have much. Cooper Cup is probably going to retire. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he won't. But I mean, he's definitely getting long in the tooth, and seems to have lost a step. His good games now are like 30, 40 yards and a few catches. So I don't hate, especially with the landing spot there. Josh Cameron could easily be the wide receiver too when it's all said and done in a offense that needs a wide receiver too, I think. So I don't hate that one. The rest of them, yeah, get the hell out of here. I'm not touching those players.
Yeah, I think it's more likely that Deion Burks goes undrafted, in my opinion, than actually gets drafted in the second round. He's always hurt. He's never really been good. Like, yeah, he's had good games, but like, when has he ever put a full season together? And I know that the injuries play a part in that, but like even from a yards per route run standpoint, like he's never been super efficient. Um, Zachariah Branch, I do think is interesting. I did consider him at 211, but I just couldn't really bring myself to do it. I think he could be gadgety in a sense where, especially in an offense like that, where yes, you get Brock Bowers, but you need somebody else to sort of take some of the load off in the passing game. I know Ashton Genty is probably somebody that they think can do that, but you still need a wide receiver that can do something, which isn't necessarily what Zachariah Branch is, but he could certainly be schemed up to get some touches. And Michael Trigg, I know it's tight end premium, but he didn't really blow me away by any means there at Baylor. And same thing with Josh Cameron. Like, I think Torrey Horton has shown more this year to like maybe be into that wide receiver 2 role for them. I don't think Josh Cameron's any better, certainly not better than Torrey Horton, who's already sort of carved out somewhat of a role for himself there. So that's kind of where I'm at though, and I think that once you get into the third round, it's really just going to be kind of disgusting. You're just going to have to go with your gut in who has the best landing spots, who's got the best opportunity to get early playing time. Just go from there because once you get into the third round, the talent level is it's not going to be too much of a delineator between who you're going to be picking because none of these guys are in that elite tier or even in that very good tier.
I think I have to caveat that a little bit because, we're sitting here going, we're never touching Zachariah Branch. We're not touching Michael Trigg. We're not drafting Garrett Nussmeier when he's a Dolphin. Like we're not taking the wide receiver going to the Niners when they need wide receivers. Like players, dynasty players are going to take these players in their rookie drafts ahead of where we have taken them. This is not how your normal rookie draft is going to go. And so, you might get Emmett Johnson, and well, maybe not Emmett Johnson. You might get Mike Washington in the third. You might get Eric McAllister in the third. You could get Jacoby Lane in the fifth probably. But no, I'm just, but I think just the point is I think there's going to be some players that end up falling. So you can definitely say this is an ugly draft class. We should not fall in love with this draft class, but at the same time, I think there's enough landmines to where we're still going to get some quality players in the third rounds. Maybe the fourth and fifth rounds are going to be really rough this year, and I would probably assume that. But I still think you can get some quality players in the third rounds if you play your cards right. And I don't hate Torrey Horton by any means, Andy, but he's kind of become a little injury prone. His last two seasons have ended in injury, ended up on IR and all that kind of stuff. So that's why I was saying, hey, I don't really mind Cameron there. We got Brett saying this was a fun draft. We appreciate that. We had fun. We hope everyone else had fun. And obviously, Brett was along with us the entire ride, so we appreciate him for being there and enjoying the ride with us. There's a lot of fun. We will be back in your ears as soon as possible, but we're well over the hour mark. In fact, this is probably the longest pod that we've done in quite some time since we switched to weekly. We've been trying to stay closer to the hour mark, but it's just not possible when we're sitting here drafting and trying to figure out all these players and explain our picks, and especially when you're trying to explain, oh, there's a landing spot going along with it and all that kind of stuff. So we appreciate you guys listening. Obviously, make sure you're checking out the Gridiron Ratings YouTube channel so that you can check out this video. You can join us, know when we're going live, check in with us and comment like Brett was tonight, and also just checking out the shorts, everything. If you can't do an hour and a half of content, hey, we cut up shorts and we throw it out there so at least you can see some of the important topics that we were talking about, and you'll see that on that channel. Make sure you're liking, subscribing wherever you can listen to podcasts, because we desperately need that and we obviously appreciate that. We will be back in your ears as soon as possible, but for now, we're going to go ahead and cash out. See you guys.